Flame Shoter. I'm a master certified coach and owner of a personal development coaching practice called Coach Flame.
And I'm Jeannie Ivy, a creative director, artist, and owner of the creative consultancy Ivy Magic. And together, Flame and I are
the Spark Sisters.
In the process of working with Flame as my coach, we discovered that we had complementary and kindred ideas about how to help others find their spark and own their unique place in the world. Eventually, we started talking about how we might share these ideas with others, tapping into the natural riffing style that happened whenever we talked.
And that's a glimpse into how the Spark Sisters podcast began. We have seen and felt the magic of learning to be authentic in our own lives. And that is at the heart of this podcast. We wanted to share the way that we did it, not so that you would do it our way, but because sometimes when you hear someone else say their way, then you discover your own. We want you to live from your authentic spark.
All right, today, Flame and I are going to be talking about why authenticity matters at work. And it was kind of funny, right before we started, Flame had this great statement, and I actually want to use that as our springboard into this discussion today. Flame, you said, it's almost like an oxymoron. So tell us what you meant by that.
Well, work is where you go to get some things done, right? And you negate yourself in order to get those things done because you are, this is extreme language, but you're a slave to the mission, the vision, the outcomes, the productivity. And I think we are here today to question whether that's the reality. Does it have to be that way? What would it be like if that was not the case? And I think we see a big shift, right? I mean, part of the reason we're doing this podcast is because in the personalities of people, in the real heartfelt wishes of people, we see that people want to make a contribution in their lives. And that has to be an authentic contribution. It can't just be enriching someone up at the top of the scale or at the top of the hierarchy. There has to be real humane work being done.
Mm-hmm. A personal investment in the work and not just working for the man.
Right. And I think of, sort of the archetype of like a marketing agency in the 50s, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all looked the part. They had the great suits. They were doing this stuff. Really, there was not a lot of authentic work being done. People were playing a role rather than being their whole selves into the work.
That's perfect. That phrase. This is something that I've noticed in corporate cultures recently is that there's this idea of bringing your whole self to work. What do you think about that phrase? Do you think it's putting actually a distance between people and the real concept of authenticity? Do you think it's also maybe encouraging some people just to feel like they have free reign to be jerks? What do you think?
I think it's an aspirational goal because most of us are not our whole selves, period, full stop. I mean, that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which leads to self-actualization, right? Self-actualization is at the peak of that triangle. It does not happen overnight. So to bring your whole self to work, we're sort of in the nascent stages, right? And especially like from a coaching perspective, you want to accept the whole person. You want to evoke the whole person. You want to empower the whole person.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is that we're working with people who are not their whole selves. So there's like this very delicate balance. To your point, it could seem like, being my whole self at work means I get to just throw my weight around. I get to speak my mind without considering how it hurts other people. I get to have exactly what I want out of the project and everyone else can just suck it, But of course, that's not what we mean.
Yeah. Yes.
Because our whole selves would include our genius, but our genius is often born out of our most vulnerable, tender parts.
Oh, I love that. And I have been wondering that as well. Like and we might have talked about this a little bit last episode, is if someone is just speaking without a filter and that comes across as brash or brutal, or, that notion of brutally honest. I don't know that authenticity is necessarily compatible with being brutal. Like, do you think, or is there some way that sort of connects with, brokenness? If you feel like you need to lash out, it's because there's something that's harmed or hurting in who you are and the interactions that you have at work.
I totally agree with you, Jeannie, because brutality is like a defense mechanism or a coping mechanism for their own vulnerable parts, right? That's fight, flight, or freeze. They've chosen the fight avenue unconsciously. And so much like over independence is also, right? They, on the one hand, might look really powerful because that person is really taking a lot of accountability or is willing to take a lot of risks or, whatever benefits that's getting them. But it doesn't engender connection. It doesn't make space for the brilliance of others. It doesn't honor the fact that we live and work in a society, in a community. Why would we do that if that didn't have some kind of benefit? But you're like negating all the benefits if you're in your, whatever your coping and defense mechanisms are, which are not authentic.
So let me ask you about those benefits. And I know that you have, as a coach, worked in corporate environments as well. When you are coaching people and, helping them own their authentic selves or, get further along on that journey, when more people within a company are committed to that journey and doing that work, how does that benefit the company? What sort of positive changes have you seen when it works well?
It's like the whole organization slowly gets lifted up to a new level because there's more clarity. There's more discernment about, this is the right risk to take. And this would be a driven risk, so we're not going to choose that. And the more that people are authentic and then that is accepted and honored, the more authentic they get to be. Well, then that's where their creativity sometimes goes in the higher side. That's where they have insights into a connection that becomes a whole new niche market. That's where they see what a client really needs in their marketing campaign so that they can garner that market share that they've been seeking, right? Because a calm mind, a whole mind is a very creative mind. That's where intuition, insight, inspiration just seem to flow into it as if by magic. Well, it isn't magic. It's that their need for belonging, acceptance, care, concern, trust, security, the list goes on, is being met.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
What have you seen happen in organizations as people become more and more authentic?
Well, I think I can speak to sort of the teams I've been a part of within larger organizations. There is something seemingly magical that happens when people are given permission to develop their authentic strengths. So something I've noticed as a creative director or someone that is reviewing content is often people expect feedback to be very direct in terms of this is what the reviewer is going to tell them to do. And often what the reviewer tells them to do is the way the reviewer would solve the problem themselves. Giving people the freedom and space to be collaborative about feedback and to draw out their own natural abilities and strengths and authenticity, that's when the work really gets interesting. That's when you see this big leap in professional and personal development because people are no longer handcuffed by the way they think their manager or their creative director would solve a problem. They are given the permission to authentically solve things and be creative the way they uniquely can be, that no one else on the team or the organization can be.
As I'm listening to you talk, it's like the difference between trying to give your teacher or your parent the right answer versus being your own adult.
Yes. Yes.
You know what I mean? Having your own agency and individuality to like partner with the forces that be or partner with the project that's in front of you.
Yeah. I mean, the world needs one Jeannie Ivy and that's it. Like, I don't need to create a bunch of other Jeannie Ivies with the groups that I'm mentoring or creative, providing creative direction for. No, that's not very creative. Like, we need that patchwork of different perspectives and talents and different shades of authenticity. So that's my roundabout way of telling you, Flame, how I've seen it work and what I see the benefit of, authenticity at work really being.
We're not here to create a bunch of creative Stepford wives.
Yes. Well said.
That's the point. Now, it doesn't mean that each generation doesn't sort of come with a design aesthetic that's popular whatever.
Yes.
We're not negating the realities of that, but our approaches to it are what evolve art over time, and they're what evolve humanity over time.
Yeah, true.
So it's what we're talking about is really a big, meaningful commitment.
So to make that commitment, what are some things that you think companies can do to truly encourage people to be authentic, to develop their own authenticity and not, not use that as a permission slip just to be a jerk? Like, what are some things that company leadership can do to foster this?
It's kind of a delicate situation, right? Because it's an inside job. Ultimately,
Yep.
Each person has to do it for themselves. But I think what we can do as companies and organizations is to teach managers and leaders and even just influencers how to normalize, empathize, validate, how to listen to people in order to learn what's operating for them rather than to listen for whether or not I agree. Because there's this sort of fundamental reality, and I don't mean to be sexist here, but biologically, because women have estrogen-dominated brains, we seek connection. That's sort of our innate drive. It doesn't just have to be women. Anyone can have an estrogen-dominated brain, but anyone with an estrogen-dominated brain seeks connection. And therefore, when we're listening for, oh, I like that. I agree with that. They're the same. Conversely, if you have a testosterone-dominated brain, you don't listen for that. You listen for, how can I fix this? What do I have to solve here? Which is a different thing, right? The truth is there's a third way, and this is the coaching way. And I think this is how you creative direct. What's operating here? What is this person telling me about what's important to them? What are they seeing about this situation that they want me to understand? And I've heard it called listening to learn. And when we do this, it sounds so simplistic, but that is actually what empowers people, makes them feel seen and heard, which is how you step into being authentic. Oh, that worked. I'll do that again. What I said in that meeting was listened to, and it added benefit to what we brought to the client. I think I'll try that next time. It's very subtle and unconscious, but that kind of thing, that kind of listening is incredibly powerful.
Wow. That's big.
It is. It's like so big and it's so small, right? It's such a tiny behavior.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to do. Really. As someone with 17 years of coaching experience, I can tell you it is a skill set. You really have to commit yourself to the practice and continually bring yourself back to, no, I'm not here to agree or disagree. What are you telling me about you? And how can I be present to that?
Yes.
Now, you've seen things from a little bit of a different viewpoint than me. What have you seen in organizations that has worked to support authenticity?
I think it really does come down to, what you were getting at in terms of role modeling, what it looks like to not only be authentic, but role modeling what it is to have an environment, an organization that values different and authentic viewpoints. and is not dictatorial. Yeah, that's what I've seen.
I can hear you pointing to the polarity that every organization has to manage between, oh, there's diversity here, there are differences here, and we're the same, we're all headed towards the same end game or on the same mission, right? How do you navigate that? It's not always obvious.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the sort of company vision or team charter becomes the parameters for that authenticity and also that creativity. Like creativity does need boundaries to, really spark innovation. And so that team charter or that company vision then becomes that playground, and we're going to stay within these walls. We're all going to, be doing this in the same place with the same vision, but within that, there's still a lot of room. There's a lot of facets, and there is room for everyone. And there is enough, we can make this shape as faceted as we want. So it just, and the other thing that I notice is leaders that allow for authenticity, allow for different opinions, it just makes everything sort of calm down. Like there's not a high level of drama or worry. Everyone just feels like, okay, I'm safe here. And again, safety is also an inside job as well, but fostering it, cultivating it, leaders that allow for that really do it's just this breath of fresh air.
I always feel like I'm living in reality when I'm with a leader who can hold that tension between what everybody is saying or the downside of the project and where we're headed.
Yeah. Yes.
That sense of all is well is just such a balm for the soul.
Yes. And the leaders that are really all about their own trajectory, their own growth, oftentimes it's those leaders that create the opposite environment where everyone has to do things their way in order to achieve their personal goal of getting to a certain place. And I don't want to hear anyone else's way of doing things. And that does create a lot of anxiety and a lot of burnout.
I'm thinking of something, I think my ex-husband probably said it to me. It was like, don't bother me with the facts. I'm on a mission here. And I will admit, I am capable of that at times. Like I can't handle that dissonance, and learning to dismantle that and slow down and live into my own discomfort about, oh, these are facts that go against the way I thought this was going to play out, is a huge act of emotional intelligence. So obviously we believe emotional intelligence and authenticity go hand in hand, but also has turned out to be one of the greatest gifts to me, because now I really get to be with people in a way that I never experienced before. I felt very lonely as a young woman.
Oh, yeah.
Because I couldn't really be with people through the complexity of life, which kind of points to, so if you're in an organization, how do you know that the space needs more authenticity? We've pointed to loneliness. We've pointed to kind of like dysfunctional teams or leaders who are steamrolling through a project. What are the other ways that we would know, no, this might be a space where we need to ask some hard questions and really listen to the answers?
I think if you have the very traditional sort of symptoms of low morale, where, people just seem disengaged, they're on calls and they're just low energy. And then the other aspect of that is high turnover. You see organizations with really high turnover. And you also look at the work, look at the output of the company. Companies that don't have that authenticity really thriving, what they produce tends to not go anywhere. It sort of stays the same for a long period of time. It's not that interesting. It's not that innovative. It's just kind of flatlined a little bit.
Yes.
And so
repetitive.
Yes. And so you can sort of almost look at the company's output, whatever that output is, whether it's technology, whether it's, a video series, whatever, jelly beans. I mean, I don't know, like whatever. And look at that and go, oh, this is stagnating. Like maybe this is not an organization, a culture that fosters authenticity and therefore creativity and innovation.
So that brings me to a question that I see my clients grappling with is, what do I do when I realize that who I authentically am doesn't line up with this organization that pays me the big bucks? What would you say from your point of view to someone who's in that dilemma?
I would say first, see what you do have influence of. See what you are able to control and see if that gets you to a place where you feel good about being at that organization. This was something that happened in a position that I was in where I was working for a leader that really was about, oh yeah, I want all your ideas. And then you bring the person the ideas and they'd say, well, that's great, but do it like this. It was who just really wanted a wrist or wrists to execute their vision. And the work wasn't moving forward. The team I was leading, we just couldn't produce anything because we were constantly sort of spinning to keep up with, this leader's demands. And I don't know how I was able to do this. I think I was able to probably do it because, I had the confidence in my ability to do this. I said, talking to this leader, you have all these goals for us and we are stagnating. Can you give me 3 weeks? 3 weeks to see what we can get done. And just let the team and I go forth and just see what we can get done if we can just focus. If you can allow us just to focus on these tasks and not add additional ones to us, let's see what can happen. And what happened was that the team thrived. What happened is this within then a 5-week period, conducted 300 training sessions, created a whole microsite from scratch that was getting hits right and left. Wonderful positive feedback from customers. I mean, the team thrived and rose to the challenge because they had a safe space to be authentic and not feel like they had to deliver to someone's sort of dictatorial vision.
Wow. What was it like to be a part of that team after those 5 years?
Oh my gosh. It was the best feeling in the world. It's, and for me, I loved being in the role of an empowerer. I wasn't delivering any of these things. And I was so proud of my team. I was so proud of them. I saw them come so far. I saw them do things they didn't realize they were capable of. And so, bringing it back around again, I'm the queen of, spinning off on these questions, Flame. But it's just find that little niche where you do have influence. If you're really struggling to be authentic in a company. And then if doing that is still not enough, then you have to find a place, a culture, even if it means going out on your own, where you can find that alignment of authenticity. And there is something, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. There is something powerful that happens when you have that realization and you're willing to make that shift. And ultimately, those worries that you have about, well, this job is paying me the big bucks, what's going to happen? Somehow making those aligned decisions, things end up working out.
I agree. remember the Marianne Williamson quote?
Yes.
How it's not our darkness we fear the most.
Yes. Yes.
And then at the end of that, she says something like, when we step into our own power, when we claim our own authenticity, I'm not even paraphrasing, I'm like changing it. But when we do that, we empower other people to do the same. They get to find their light.
Yes.
And what I love in your story is that by you having the courage to approach your leader and say, hey, could you take this risk on our behalf? And they were willing to say yes. And then all this talent got to blossom. So your authenticity made room for theirs, and hopefully maybe even for the leader. I guess we didn't really check in about how that was for the leader after 5 weeks, but.
Yeah. Well, and the leader did actually say to me, I mean, they were blown away by, the work that had happened, and was like, wow, if this is what happens with this team when you're allowed to sort of focus, fine, sign me up for that. When you need that, you just tell me that. So yeah, I think all the way along. And I'm glad you asked that, Flame, to, bring it back to, when you take an authentic risk against someone who's maybe not championing, I can never say that word, authenticity, taking that risk to be authentic can give them another perspective on things as well. Like, oh, this is what it looks like. This is what happens when people are authentic. This is what happens when I give people space to be their unique and fuller selves.
Especially if the leader happens to be kind of a big personality or someone who's very confident and solid in the way that they approach things. We're all susceptible to feeling like, oh, well, then that's the way.
Yep.
And we forget that other people can contribute so much from their unique perspectives, their unique interests, their unique history. And when we do, the whole outcome is richer.
Yes.
So I guess part of what I hear us saying, and I had never thought of it this way until just now, is that authenticity is something, if we're at the level of consciousness to be thinking about authenticity and we're having that conversation internally in our organizations or in our communities, we sort of have to hold open the space for it to happen.
Yes.
Because obviously people who are not looking at authenticity are not going to do that.
Yes. Yep.
That's part of what we can offer in whatever way that looks. In your case, it was asking for permission to change course less often.
Yeah.
But it might look like in your one-on-ones, really leaving a lot of quiet time or setting an agenda where the person you're partnering with really gets items that are important to them in the entire conversation about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I mean, really, we're talking about authenticity in a way there too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
People who have a different cultural background or a different skin color or a different religion, that they get a chance to have input into the system.
Yes.
And that's that normalizing, validating, and empathizing in play.
Yes. And I think the other area where we can make room for it is in the feedback that we give people as well. That we give room to look at the work that we're reviewing and about to give feedback on, and look for ways that people can turn up their authenticity. That's a way that we can make room for it as well, that we can really, when we see people through their work being authentic, and we can encourage that and say, that's the thing. More of that, please. We're creating space for it.
Yes. We're empowering it.
Yes. And that's the thing, Flame, like, again, coming back to something you said earlier, that authenticity is an inside job. And I think we're going to do an episode on this as well, this whole topic of, while your own authenticity is your own job, it's your own responsibility, also being the kind of person that encourages and empowers people on their journey to be authentic is still important.
So authenticity is an inside job and it's a team effort.
Yes, there you go. Everyone listening, write that down.
Yes. I mean, I think we're pointing to the complexity of it then.
Yes.
Like, oh,
yes,
man,
true.
you do it for yourself and for others at the same. Whoa, that's a lot.
But that's the, adjust your own mask before assisting others.
Absolutely. You will only be able to encourage the level of authenticity in others that you have established within your own mind, heart, and soul.
Yes.
That is the truth of it. So the journey is to notice where you are not yet authentic, learn to be comfortable with that discomfort, and with support, move past it. Because the truth is that our authenticity is freaking scary. To really put yourself out there, to take those, to approach your boss and say, I think we could do some great things if you would give us these 3 weeks. But let's face it, some part of you was probably worried you'd get fired or punished, retaliated against in some way, right? Or just have a bad attitude from that leader from then on, right? It was a risk.
Yes.
In this case, it really paid off, not just for you, but the people around you. Brilliant. Not always the case. So there's some real tenderness in bringing forth our authenticity. But when we can, that's where we feel so alive.
Yes. It's true. And I would say the other thing that I think is important to point out about authenticity, it's not an act of being selfish. Like it's not like you are, yes, you're focused on yourself, but at the same time, it's for something bigger than yourself.
And it's at no one else's detriment.
Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
In the Midwest, I do a lot of coaching about, but you don't understand, coach, I'm selfish.
Yes.
And I finally had to look up the dictionary definition, which is that if I'm selfish, that means I'm doing something that is to my betterment, that is directly at your detriment. And every time when I ask someone, okay, if that's the definition of selfish, are you actually doing that? And they say, well, no, I really care about the other people in the situation. I want them to have good things too. It's just that what I want maybe isn't what they want. Well, that's different. And that is authenticity. That is alignment with your core values. That is integrity even.
Yeah.
Is that difficult? Is that disappointing? Sometimes.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's worth it because you only get your one life with your one self. Which other life are you going to live? So yeah, selfishness, I think, is something that, especially here in the Midwest, we can give that up. How we're built.
This was good.
Yeah, this is some good conversation. I hope everybody found a couple of things that they could take back to work tomorrow and start putting into practice, because we're not talking about big behavior changes here, just shifts in your viewpoint and making space for this authenticity that is so, so valuable to the individual, but also to the team goal.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for chatting about this, Flame.
Anytime, Jeannie, anytime. Thank you.
You are welcome.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Spark Sisters.
Today's episode included editing and original music from Podcast Edition. You can find them at podcastedition.com. If you'd like to learn more about this series or connect with us, visit sparksisterspodcast.com.